You are listening to Down Home. I'm Derek Wise, and on behalf of Jay Jones, welcome to the podcast. When Jay and I started this podcast journey, we committed the worst cardinal sin of podcasting. We didn't actually communicate the proper context of why we are going through this podcast journey together. In episode 1, we did share a little bit of background info and our motivations for wanting to speak out, but we didn't explain why we are co-hosts. So join us as we discuss our friendship over the years, from the church to high school, and then through our 20s and our separate moves to Toronto. We actually end the episode explaining what it means to us to be Scotian. So stay tuned.
Breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, simple breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, simple breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, simple breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground.
The reason we're doing this, I guess, is we did have a couple of comments of people wondering what our connection is. So I guess we assumed, you know what I mean? Like we had our first episode and we talked about us individually, and we talked about our loose connection kind of thing, like we like high school, but we never actually kind of went in depth, and we kind of assumed it was assumed knowledge. You know what I mean?
True,
which isn't a great way to go about things. So, 39 episodes in, we'll actually explain in detail.
How we're about to go down the rabbit hole.
So the deep connection's probably the church. Wouldn't you agree?
I would say so. I think that's where the journey really, really started. I can remember Sidney Jones, my great grandfather, head deacon, Cornwallis Street Baptist Church. Edith Chandler, head deaconess of Cornwallis Street Baptist Church. After Sunday service, we got changed up where they did the baptisms for children's choir. We used to go hang our gowns up there, and then coming back down, the deacons and deaconess, they would be counting out the tithes and offering from the collections plates.
Counting the cash.
The mad money. It was like, it was funny. And then I'd always come down and I'd talk to my grandfather. Thornton Williams was usually there. Your grandmother was usually there. A few other deacons, and I can't remember their names, but they'd always talk to me and ask me questions about school and how this and that was. And your grandmother one time said to me, she said, "You know what, Jason, it would be a good idea if you met my grandson one day. I think you guys would get along swimmingly." I don't know if she said swimmingly. I'm putting words in her mouth, but it sounds like something someone from back then might say.
Yeah,
but
true.
So sure enough, we met one day on Cornwallis Street. On Cornwallis Street itself, and I was like, "Hey, Derek," and you didn't really say much. You just
that's
checked me out.
If anyone knows me, that I don't really say too much, especially back then.
But I knew it then.
Yeah. So what we're calling Cornwallis Street Baptist Church has a new name, but back then, the church that was it was near the corner of Cornwall. Is it still called Cornwallis Street? Because I know they renamed the church.
Yeah,
but I think it's still Cornwallis Street. They haven't renamed that.
Yeah,
it's on the corner. It was near the corner of Cornwallis and Godican. So smack dab in the north end of Halifax, and probably the predominant church on the peninsula for Black folks.
Most definitely, for sure.
So that And how long was your grandfather the deacon there though? Like it must have been at least the 50s and 60s, or 60s at least, right?
I think he was coming in on 40 or 50 years. Yeah.
Really? So it was like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, because he was 94 when he passed away.
Yeah.
And as long as I can remember, when I was born, he was a deacon. And I think he became in the 50s, in his early 50s, late 40s,
Yeah.
maybe.
I
Yeah.
know for sure my grandmother was a deaconess in the 60s and the 70s for sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that, that's some pretty deep roots, and like the church was everything for our community, man. It was the center of social interaction. It was the meeting place for um everyone in our community in around that area, right? Even you, like you living out in Klein Heights, it was a place that you came for that interaction, right?
Yeah, for sure. And not to mention the people that would come from across the bridge in Dartmouth
There
to
were
even
people in
come to
Dartmouth. I
Sunday
didn't know
service.
that. Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah, they would.
the Marshalls, right?
Yeah, the Marshalls, and other people too, like you know uh Cornwall Street Baptist Church at the time was, like you say, it was the hub, and I think it was the first black church in Halifax, like way back.
Mm, yeah,
I believe so.
yeah, and like I don't know about now, but the three services on Sunday, man. There was something that went on Saturday too, wasn't there?
I don't know, man. It was something going on all the time, man.
Yeah,
It
but
was
there's three
yeah,
services on Sunday though. I only went to two, maybe two,
yeah.
but you were there all three.
Yeah, sometimes I had to be there 3. Yeah, it was I was there every Sunday for sure, no question. And on Fridays for uh children's choir practice.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh,
that
okay.
was a good times. Yeah. So I mean, from preschool to my formative years, to meeting friends that I consider lifelong friends there.
Mm.
Um, you know, the church was a big thing. Yeah.
So the choir that was Melinda Day.
Yes, she was the
Melinda Day.
director. Yeah,
Yeah, for
and
years,
she
man.
was, yeah, for many years. Yeah,
My
she had
goodness.
she she had the job of wrangling us all as kids together and getting us to sing. It was funny
Yeah.
sometimes because you Goddington Street kids were rowdy.
I remember they had after school programs there at the church, or lunchtime and after school. So at
Mhm.
lunchtime there was a um I forget what they called it, man. But anyway, all the
What, the
kids,
hot lunch program?
the hot lunch program. That's what, and my
Yeah,
grandmother used to be big on that, and along with other ladies from the church. So they ran the kitchen.
yeah, my
So
grandmother as well.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yep.
And I remember because I had really bad asthma and I wasn't sickly, but my grandmother coddled me a lot. I think I was her favorite to some
Hmm.
degree, but I
Yeah.
she would never let me in amongst all the kids. I
Yeah.
always sat in the kitchen
Yes, I
with
remember.
her. Yeah.
I saw you a few times there sitting on a stool, VIP access, getting it hot from the stove.
Yeah, I know, man.
Yeah,
But I
I
remember the big old tins of the big old tins of sauces, and the big,
yeah,
like big old tins of like pears and peaches and stuff that they got
yeah,
donated to the
yeah,
church.
yeah,
Yeah, these were big programs back in the day that held these
yeah, man.
this our community up, man. Like the church was the
Yeah.
hub of everything.
Oh, big time. And yeah, the women were always of the community were always working hard. I remember
Mm.
there was big vats of lard,
Yeah,
and someone was always peeling potatoes. Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Those
yeah,
big 50-pound potatoes. So a lot of work went into that. And I think, a lot of the sort of mother figures, that's what they became to a lot of the kids there. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It
definitely,
was
man.
it was well put together, well organized from
Yeah.
what I remember.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then as we got older, the church wasn't, for me, definitely, because the church wasn't as big a a part of my life as we got older, especially in the teenage years when it was given a choice of whether
Yeah.
you're going to go or not. All of a sudden, two times came to one, and then one came to all every now and then. Then all of a
Hmm.
sudden, you just kind of stop going, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I got a job, and
Oh, there was
and
that
I
your
had
excuse?
that was well part of my excuse, but it made it easier. You know what I mean? So, uh, yeah, Sundays I often work because we were working part time, and how you got your hours was usually on the weekends and maybe
Yeah.
one shift a week or something for me anyway.
Yeah. True.
Although you were working you were working all the time, man.
Oh yeah, on the HRM, the Halifax
Mhm.
Regional Municipality back in the day. But yeah, man. So we really met though as teenagers in grade 10, I think.
Yeah.
In
Grade 11, actually.
was it grade
Yeah.
11?
I think I knew of you in grade 10, but we didn't really roll in the circle yet. And then grade 11, we were in we were in Bobby D's economic class.
Was that grade 11? Shoot, man, I always thought that
Yeah.
was grade 10.
No, yeah, grade 11 when one of the electives was economics, and so started taking that, and I was like, hey man, I remember you, and then we hit it off. And
Mm.
then the funny part is Bobby D, Mr. Douglas, our teacher, he would always come to he would always come to me. He'd be like, Derek, was Jason in class today? And I was like, I'm Jason. And, and yeah, he was in class. He's like, oh, all right. And then he did the same to you. He always
Yeah.
thought we were each other. So
Yeah, I never corrected him. I'd say, yeah, Derek was in class. He was right up front.
Yeah. But it was so funny because that became a running joke, how we sort of covered for each other. And it was funny. But,
so high school
and then
when we started hanging out, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we were teenagers and going to school dances and hanging out with friends, playing basketball, and
Yeah.
all
And
that
we
stuff.
kind of covered a lot of that stuff with the fellas episode. I forget the number.
Yeah.
But that was high school,
Mhm.
and we kind of ran in different circles a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I had the football crowd and stuff like that. We always kind of met in the middle. Like me,
Mhm.
you, Chad, and Chris, we always met in the middle and then did our thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because you had football and stuff a lot, like
Yeah. Every day
during the
after
first
school,
half.
man. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
But yeah.
And I think definitely, the parties and being invited out to stuff and all that stuff, and me looking as old as I did, I was the guy to go into the LC, so I was invited to a lot of that stuff just to supply the beer and whatnot, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. You good old DCYs. Yeah. Clyde Street Liquor Store.
yeah, Clyde Street Liquor Store, man, that was hilarious.
Yeah. But yeah, and then we spent those years sort of having a good social life with our friends, and then into our early 20s, obviously school, you went to school and stuff, and the bond formed that much more stronger. Like we became kind of brothers, with Chad included and Chris
Yeah.
included, because we were grown men just working, and spent a lot of time playing basketball together on Sundays and
Hmm.
hanging out. Yeah.
Yeah, and like we got so close that after I met my girlfriend and my soon to be wife, you actually stood up at my wedding. You were one of my groomsmen, man.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
But that wasn't until we both basically met in Toronto. So I spent most of the late 90s in Australia.
Yeah.
And but when we both got hit Toronto. But what was your decision to hit Toronto, man? That was 1999, was it?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, one thing, my mom lived up here and we didn't really grow up together. I was raised by my great grandparents. I wanted to know her, and I wanted to try music and acting. I wanted to, just see what could happen, and also get to know her. And it was free rent for a bit until I got on my feet. And yeah, that was my decision, just to come here and see what could happen, because Halifax wasn't it for me anymore.
Yeah.
And,
And when we made the decision, me and my wife made the decision to get back to Canada. Toronto was the natural decision, because it's the largest city. So
yeah. Yeah.
It was the natural place to come. But we both met here. Like, but the thing is, of our group, we were the only two up here, though.
Yeah. It
Of our
just,
friend group from high school in our 20s.
yeah.
We were the only ones here. But
Yeah.
you had your own little group. You I think when I landed, you did your best to try and invite me out and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I remember you inviting
Yeah.
me to a few of your occasions with Trailer Vision
Trailer
and
vision.
whatnot, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. 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 I mean, yeah, just, I mean, you were new in town and I had sort of started to forge a little bit of social and doing some things that I set out to do. So it was pretty cool. And, now my best friend was here. So yeah, I just wanted you amongst the mix. And
yeah,
that happened over the years over different things. Like we both evolved immensely here.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think when me and Vanessa moved here, we were up north. Well, not north. It was northern Toronto.
Hmm.
But then when our decision to come downtown, it so happened we only lived about a 20-minute walk from you, which is extraordinary given the size of Toronto.
Oh yeah, it's yeah, I remember I lived on St. Paul and
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, you guys moved into the Esplanade and
yeah,
I remember I could take this little pathway right down to King Street and walk right there. So yeah, I spent
yeah,
a lot of time there, man. Yeah.
yeah. And that's where the barbecue started, backyard barbecues.
Yeah. And yeah, that's where a lot of things started, just the growth of the family, your two kids and
Mm.
our friendship and then, uh yeah, man. It just, what can you say, man? 30, 40 years later.
Yeah, I know. Jay, our family is so close with Jay that Jay is the godfather of my kids.
Yeah.
And like I said, you stood at my wedding, man. So that's where
Hmm.
the bond comes from. That we're sharing this podcast.
Yeah.
So it's almost like
And
a natural progression.
oh, for sure. And for the simple fact, too, I think as men, we're a little bit older now and we're a little bit softer. And, during this time, too, we started to talk a lot about different things that, sometimes you wouldn't think men really talk about. And that's sort of the brotherhood and the bond and, getting personal and being family. And that led to our feelings about what happened when George Floyd, we've talked about this before, but, it was that continued foundation of friendship that allow us to go a little bit deeper and look at the way we were both affected by something crazy that was going on in the world that we
Yeah,
never really looked at before, in that
yeah,
kind of way through that sort of lens,
yeah.
you know.
True. Did when we started this project, did you think that we would be almost 40 episodes in?
um well, I think I think so, I mean, I think we just started it and we just kept trucking and we believe in it. And some good things have come from it and other ideas. And, this is the heart of it. And we're continuing to learn from the people that we're interviewing, some Nova Scotians, some not, but all talking about these subjects and having open conversations. And I think it's always a continuing dialogue. But I don't think people have continued it like as much as we have within our own little world. Of course, there's lots of podcasts out there, and everyone's doing their thing to have these conversations, I'm sure. But I think at the heart of it, and the rabbit hole it led us down, knowing about our family history, makes it
Mhm.
an ongoing thing. I'm not surprised at all
Yeah,
because it was also something that got us through COVID as well,
yeah,
and all
true.
the circumstances there. It was gave us something to look forward to and invest our time and learn a lot more because we couldn't go anywhere else. And it was us keeping in touch.
Yeah,
I'm bachelor lifestyle, your family, but it
mm,
was a good way for us to keep in contact as well and
yeah,
continue to have these conversations that evolved
yeah,
and kept evolving. So I'm not surprised.
yeah. No,
What about
it's
you?
I I thought I thought we could get here. Who was it that was saying it was a lot of hard work, man?
Augie
Augie.
Jones.
Yeah, Augie
Yeah.
Jones was saying, your average person doesn't quite understand how much hard work goes into the podcast.
Mhm.
You do a lot of the legwork when it comes to contacting and booking guests.
Hmm.
We both have a production meeting on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
I do a lot of the editing and whatnot.
Hmm.
So um, one thing that we do both together is the promotion of it
Hmm.
through social media. If there's anyone out there that's listening that wants to do social media,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're
contact
we're
us.
accepting. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
accepting internships.
internships for zero money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've both done that, and we've done a good job, a relatively good job at it. Um, and we don't really look at the numbers, but the numbers have been half decent enough to
Hmm.
get us a little bit of attention on different platforms.
Hmm.
We've got a couple of international listeners, which is surprising, you know,
Yeah.
which is another reason why we're doing this, to introduce ourselves a little bit more, because I think, again, we assumed
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
everyone kind of knew
Knew
that
our
there was
story.
this, you knew this a little bit. So we're not assuming, we're giving everyone this information.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like the most surprising uh, listening location that I saw on one of our platforms was there was a listener from Ukraine,
Oh, I
which
didn't know
is,
that. You didn't
yeah,
tell me
no,
that.
we talked about that a little while ago. Yeah,
Oh,
you
maybe
know,
we did. Yeah.
given the what they're going through right now, someone actually turned the podcast on in Ukraine and was listening
Hmm.
to us.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
pretty cool.
yeah, it is, man.
And
Mhm.
wasn't there someone in Switzerland too,
Yeah,
which I thought was kind
Switzerland,
of cool.
Germany, a few
Nice.
in the States as well.
Hmm.
All over Canada. There's someone out west that listens to us as well. Probably an expat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. If
Of
I would
course.
encourage anyone that's listening that if you have any questions, please contact us through social, and tell us if there's something specific that you want us to do, or anyone that you want us to have a conversation with that you think is a
Hmm.
great idea. I would encourage you to contact us. We do have a few more things in the works. We're actually have planned a trip to Halifax,
Yep.
where we're gonna kind of do some stuff that we've planned,
Hmm.
which should be great. But if anyone has any ideas, or someone that you want us to contact in Halifax, contact us. We're more than willing to have a conversation with someone that you might know in Halifax as well.
Yeah, for
Definitely.
sure. Yeah, that's the one beautiful thing too, is like having these conversations. You don't know where it reaches, and you don't know who's listening, but it's just, you just keep on chugging along, and we appreciate the support, and we
Hmm.
appreciate the feedback that we do get, and we're thankful for all the people who've been on here so we could interview, to even take us back into Halifax, into places we didn't know, or just hearing it from their perspective. Um, Halifax has a rich history. It's interesting to sort of go down the rabbit hole of my family's beginnings. Derek did as well. And I think, it's where we're from. So it's where we get our immense pride from. And
Hmm.
it feels good to do something like this that we can rep, our roots.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
For you, what does it mean to be Scotian?
Wow. I mean, you know what it means to me, honestly. Uh, like I said, going back here, in interviewing, and thinking about things, and reflecting upon your past, I'm filled with immense pride, because I know, you know, honestly, that's where I get my strength and perseverance from, not just being a black Nova Scotian, but just anybody. Nova Scotia was just full of good people. And I think, it took a village, made great connections, great families. And it was really like a good sense of community. I mean, I wanted to leave to expand, and just see what else was out there. But, to look back and go, damn, man, Halifax is where I'm from. So it just means to me, it means pride, I'm filled with pride,
Hmm.
to be Scotian, and knowing the history that we come from as well. That I think anybody who can, and it's really easy to do these days, and with 23andMe, isn't it? Or all these
Yeah,
different
Ancestry, all that stuff.
ancestry.com.
Mhm.
But you can find out your history, and it's there. And once you look at it, it opens the door and you see things in a different perspective, you know.
Mhm.
So pride, man.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, Scotian in general, I have two feelings about Scotia. Scotian in general, like every time I'd go back, the first time that I was back after being in Australia for a long time, I remember going to cross the street, and I was actually jaywalking, right?
Yeah.
And so I lived in Sydney, which is the largest city in Australia, and having to look the other way because they drive on the left side, the other side of the street. I was always cognizant because nobody would stop for you there, right?
Yeah. True. Yeah.
So I remember the first time that I was back and going across the street and just standing there, and I was going to jaywalk, and the car stopped in the middle of the road, mind you, and looked at me, flashed their lights, and went like this. I was like,
Wow.
"What's this person doing? What do they want?" And they were gesturing for me to cross the street in the middle of the street when I was jaywalking.
Yeah.
So to me, Scotian is welcoming.
Mhm.
Scotian is hospitality. You know, these barbecues that I have at my house. It's an extension of that. I remember my mother, sorry, having barbecues and inviting the family and inviting friends, and she
Mhm.
still does that with close friends and stuff like that, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
um you hear about kitchen parties, right?
Yeah, man.
Like that to me is Scotian, the social aspect, the community. And then you have being a black Nova Scotian, which is where we usually say Scotian is kind of the black part of our province, right? And for me, that is deep roots and community,
Mhm.
right? And that's something that I took for granted when I was younger.
Mhm.
Honestly, I took for granted that I left the door and I'm walking down Creighton Street, and they were all familiar faces, and they all knew me.
Mhm.
I took for granted that I'd be walking down the street, and I'm a 8-year-old kid, and it's starting to get dark. Someone leans out the window and goes, "Derek, your grandma is looking for you. You better go home." I took
Yeah.
that for granted, right?
Mhm.
And then growing
Yeah.
up and all that sense of community, I took that for granted. And then I think part of the reason that me and Vanessa have stuck in this neighborhood here and around the Esplanade is because there's a little bit of that here,
Mhm.
a tiny bit of that here. Not nothing
Yeah.
like when I grew up, but there's a little bit of that here, right? And
Yeah. Yeah,
it
you're right.
feels like it feels familiar. It feels at home.
Mhm.
We could have moved away. We could have gone outside the city and moved to a larger place and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
When the kids were younger, but we decided not to because we feel at home here. And I
Mhm.
think that sense of community has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, no question about that. And yeah, you definitely have brought that sort of thing with you, with your family, the barbecues, and with us too. Like,
Mm,
even my neighborhood, which isn't far from you, um, you know, some people have gone and moved away, but same thing. Just like you go outside, you walk down the street. Hey, Jay. Hey, what's up?
mm,
And that sense of community and that sense of thing. And I guess in hindsight, like you say, sometimes you don't realize what you have until it's gone.
yeah.
But looking back and reflecting invokes those memories, and in some measure of a way, we have taken that and just have
Yeah.
integrated into our life, into
And
the
so
into
yeah.
our generation.
A lot of that's you though, Jay. Like I used to joke and say that you're the mayor of your community, right? But it's true though, because you brought that sense of community to your neighborhood though. You know what I mean?
Possibly, yeah.
No,
I know what
it's
you're saying.
true. It's true. Like that, a lot of it had to do with you. Like you were the in marketing they talk about centers of influence, right?
Mhm.
These are people or organizations that have things circling around them, right? You were the center of influence in that community, right? And that's what it means to be Scotian, really.
Yeah, yeah.
When we're talking to these people, we're talking to centers of influence. Augie Jones is a center of influence, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you know, look at all of our guests; they're all centers of influence.
Yeah, it's true. So I guess it's that Scotian magic. But yeah,
Yeah,
I guess I never really thought about it that way. I mean, like you said, well, the kindness and the hospitality, we bring that with us. You
yeah,
know, easygoing, just laid back, and yeah,
hmm
it's a huge compliment. But you do the same thing too.
yeah.
So
But that's I think that's what it means to be Scotian. Like even
yeah,
look at Lindsay Sharp, man. Look at Lindsay Sharp.
yes, yeah,
Again, like I know he spent his formative years in Nova Scotia, but he's a center of influence.
very true.
People and things revolve around him and are attracted to him because he's got that Scotian center of influence, right?
Yeah, that Scotian vibe. It's true. It is a thing, and even some of us up here, actually, who were Scotian, we sometimes get together and we've all sort of crossed paths here and there. And, it's kind of cool to sort of have that vibe. When we do get together, it's still instantaneous. You and I, have had Lindsay on here. And over the last year or so, because we've had these open discussions about a lot of different things, we've sort of become closer with him as well. And
Yeah.
We were just with him a couple weeks ago, and it was that same Nova Scotian vibe. Actually, at another Nova Scotian's bar down the street.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There you go, man.
I guess once a Scotian, always a Scotian.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely,
Yeah.
man.
And I will say this too. It's like over the years, man, your grandmother was right. You would get along with my grandson Derek, and she saw it, and like I said, 40 years later. So that's it's truly an honor to do it with my brethren, as they say. You know what I'm saying?
The brethren, yes.
The
Up
brethren,
up here in Toronto.
yeah.
Breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, simple breaking new ground, breaking new ground.
You have been listening to Down Home. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
Breaking new ground, simple breaking new ground, breaking new ground, breaking new ground, yeah. On a high plateau.
What about you, man? Any closing remarks?
No, I'm gonna
You're gonna
let you close that episode over.
Yeah, you can't remember what to say anyway, right?
No time to sleep as you reach your next phase, laying it all on the line. New trail start to blaze. It's a fire inside.
The song Breaking New Ground from The Breakdown.
Just kicking it live. A connection so strong. Transcribe with the vibe like magic prescribed.